The UFC 310 pay-per-view main card is an absolute disgrace. When they put it up on TV this past weekend at UFC 309, I could not believe the bout order. It is an abomination. It is an embarrassment. And I'm hoping and I'm praying to the MMA gods that the UFC shuffles it around, because it is unacceptable. And I know people are already unhappy with Pantoja versus Asakura after we had Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov canceled. But I understand what the UFC had to do. And honestly, I still think they built a quality card. But the main card is an utter disgrace. Take a look at it for yourself. And I know you're probably wondering, Joey, what's wrong with that? Pantoja versus Asakura, Garry versus Shavkat, Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov too. But that's not where it's bad, okay? Those top three fights are amazing. It is the bout order, and it's after that featured fight. Let's jump right into it, because this really grinds my gears. So, obviously, I just showed you the full card a second ago. Alexandre Pantoja, Kai Asakura, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Machado, Garry, banger fight in the welterweight division. Ciryl Gane, Alexander Volkov, great fight. I already mentioned all three of those fights. We get Bryce Mitchell versus Kron Gracie, Flat Earther versus Flat Earther. We're getting that on the main card. And you can say, oh, Joey, Bryce Mitchell's ranked number 13. Yeah, but you haven't taken into account what's on the prelims. And then you have Nate Landwehr versus Doi Hoi Choi. I don't mind that. That's a straight up banger. It really doesn't belong on the main card. I don't have a huge issue with that. But the problem is, we have this main card. I actually have the full main card here again, too. We have this main card right here. This is what they recently unveiled. But the problem is, and I tweeted this out on Saturday when this card came out, they put Aljamain Sterling versus Movsar Evloev on the UFC 310 prelims. So you have Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie, two literal scrubs, basically. And you scroll down here, and I hope this bout order is incorrect. Basically opening up the prelims damn near. I don't know what's going to be on the prelims versus early prelims, but we know this is the main card here. You have Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling. What is the UFC doing? This needs to be on the main card. And I'm getting sick of these bout orders. It's really starting to piss me off. I'll never forget, I believe it was UFC 276, which I believe was Adesanya versus Cannonier. They had like Misha Tate versus Lauren Murphy on the main card. Luckily, I think one of them got injured and the fight got booted. Thank God for that. Just recently, UFC 309, it wasn't the greatest card. They had Viviana Araujo versus Karine Silva on the main card. These bout orders are a complete and utter disgrace. Well, who is doing this? Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling deserves to be on the main card. I mean, honestly, thank God Vicente Luque, Nick Diaz got canceled. Nick Diaz has no business being in the cage. But even Randy Brown, Brian Battle deserves to be on the main card. Like, literally, take Movsar versus Sterling and put them right behind Ciryl Gane and Alexander Volkov. So you put that at the fourth fight down. Fifth fight down, instead of Nate Landwehr, Doi Hoi Choi, it really should be Randy Brown, Brian Battle. I don't mind Nate Landwehr versus Doi Hoi Choi because it's going to be a straight up banger. But Bryce Mitchell, let's take a look at Bryce Mitchell's resume real quick. Okay? His last fight he lost to Josh Emmett, got brutally flatlined, stiffened. Last December card, which is crazy. It's been that long. Where's the time gone? Fight before that, barely ekes out a win over Dan Ige. I actually thought he lost that fight. Fight before that, lost to Ilia Topuria, who is now champion. So not a horrible loss, but got destroyed in that fight. So he's lost 2 out of his last 3. He's ranked number 13. He could be on a 3-fight losing streak. And he's fighting Kron Gracie, who's 5-2. Literally drags his ass across the canvas like a dog dragging its ass on the carpet. That's what Kron Gracie does. He's 5-2. He's lost his last 2 fights. He's gotten dominated in shitty fights against Charles Jourdain and Cub Swanson. And somehow, this guy, the butt scooter, the jiu-jitsu specialist who doesn't even belong in the UFC. This dude doesn't belong in the UFC, let alone on a pay-per-view main card. But I could understand it if the prelims were looking a little bleak. But you have Kron Gracie versus Bryce Mitchell, 4th fight down on a pay-per-view card, instead of Movsar Evloev, who is 18-0, who should be on the verge of a title shot. I mean, look at these wins. Look at these wins. He beat Arnold Allen. He beat Diego Lopez. He beat Dan Ige. He beat him convincingly, too. People act like the Diego Lopez win was close. It wasn't really all that close. Movsar dominated. Look at Diego Lopez now. They're putting him on like, they're allegedly he's going to main event against Josh Emmett, a fight night card next year. So he's 18-0. He should be one fight away from a title shot. It doesn't seem like the UFC is going to give him that because they act like the Arnold Allen fight was horrible at UFC 297. It was a great fight, by the way. It's probably the best fight on the main card, better than, I guess the only fight you could even contrast it to on the main card would be Disgrace versus Strickland. This was a great fight. He's fighting former bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling, who's 24-4, who his only recent loss is to Sean O'Malley. And he was set up for failure in that fight. Outside of that, he hasn't lost since 2017. One loss in 7 years. One loss in 7 years. He's only lost 4 fights total. And he's fighting Movsar. This literally should be a contender bout. Movsar should undoubtedly be number 1 contender with a win. Aljo should be close with a win. Former bantamweight champion should stand for something. And they're just going to bury them on the prelims? I mean, look, literally buried on the prelims. Buried on the prelim. Like, now granted, maybe they make this the featured prelim, but even still, that's a disgrace. That is an utter and complete disgrace. I mean, not that the rankings are the end-all, be-all, but even if you look at the rankings, look at the rankings here. Movsar's number 5. By the way, Movsar should be above Yair. Movsar should be above Diego Lopez. So Movsar should be 3. And then Aljamain Sterling's number 9. I think that's fair placement for him. So number 5 versus 9, and this guy should be number 3, to be honest. I mean, does anyone think Yair has any chance to beat Movsar? No. Diego Lopez wouldn't beat him either, let's be honest, okay? He hasn't. He got destroyed by him. I know it was on short notice. He would lose again. So we have a guy who's a legit top 5 guy, 18-0, on the verge of a title shot, who's already beat number 7 here against number 9, and instead we're getting number 13 Bryce Mitchell on a 2-fight, or lost 2 out of his last 3 and he's fighting a bum in Kron Gracie? What is going on? I mean, I couldn't, but when they put this graphic up, and man, it just got dark here. It just got dark in here putting the screen up. I just realized. When they put this fight up, I could not believe it. I mean, imagine how much better. Let's go back to the UFC's website. Imagine how much better a fight card would be if you had Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. I know it's not the greatest main event. We've gone over this. You can check it out in my other video. Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov being canceled was just a dagger right in the heart. But if you think about a card, Pantoja versus Asakura, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Machado Garry, 5-round co-main event in the welterweight division, number 1 contender fight. Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov. I mean, this is damn near a number 1 contender fight. I know you're going to have Jones Aspinall allegedly, but if Jones retires, guess what? Gane Volkov winner is going to rematch Tom Aspinall for the belt. That's the only fight, unless you do a Jalton Almeida fight. So this is a number 1 contender fight in the heavyweight division, damn near. That's a bit of an exaggeration. And then imagine you have Movsar versus Sterling here, the 4th fight down. And then the opener should be, I think it should be Randy Brown, Brian Battle. I don't mind it being Nate Landwehr versus Doi Ho Choi. What is the UFC doing? I just don't get it, man. I'm just sick of it. Even if, like let me actually go real quick. Let me go real quick to UFC 309, because that actually annoyed me too. Like, look at 309. Like, why do we got Viviane Araújo versus Karine Silva? That's not a main card fight. Neither is Bo Nickel, Paul Craig, to be honest. But this wasn't a horrible bout order outside of Viviane Araújo versus Karine Silva. You should have swapped that off, and we should have had Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGee on the main card. We could have even done Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson, just because Jim Miller has, illustrious career in the UFC. We're doing Viviane Araújo, Karine. This happens far too often. I feel like I'm complaining about this every other pay-per-view. At one point, and thank God they changed it, and that's why I need to make this video, because I made it back then too. Not that I'm saying that I had an impact on it, but us fans should be complaining about it. Hopefully the UFC listens to our concerns and makes up the card. But they had Bo Nickel versus Cody Bumdage. Yeah, this bum right here, Bo Nickel. This bum, Mr. Hold Me Back, Mr. Unfinished House. If he had cell service, he would clean out the entire middleweight division by now. They had Bo Nickel, Cody Bumdage ahead of Charles Oliveira, Arman Saryukian. Who is structuring these cards? I just don't get it, man. It's driving me nuts. If 310 looks like this, it's going to just piss me off. It ruins the whole flow of the card. Does anybody else understand what I'm saying? It genuinely ruins the flow of the card. When you have, banger fight, banger fight, banger fight, and then boom, it's just shit fight. I mean, Bryce Mitchell, who wants to see Kron Gracie even fight? I mean, look at him. Look at him. Look at his career. He scoots his ass around the cage like a dog that's got a dingleberry. He's a bum. And we're going to watch him on a pay-per-view ahead of this fight. This is a straight up heater. I don't get it, guys. I really don't get it. And for me, it genuinely ruins the flow of a card to have two elite level featherweights. I almost said bantamweight because Aljamain Sterling fighting potentially for a number one contender spot. And instead of them fighting on the main card, they're on the prelims, and you got bums on the main card. And, you know, that brings up the topic, which I kind of been hinting at a little bit. What is up with the shitty token women's MMA fights on the main card? What I don't understand. The UFC will have a decent fight on the prelims. I understand sometimes they like to have a good fight to headline the prelims. But they'll have multiple decent prelim fights, and they're like, oh, let's throw shitty women's MMA fight. Let's throw it on the main card. They've done it time and time again. It's driving me nuts. And I'm telling you right now, if they would have put Bo Nickel versus Cody Bumditch ahead of Charles Oliveira versus Arman Sarukian, that would have been one of the biggest blunders in UFC history. But I wish I could remember. I should have pulled up previous cards. I should have pulled up the cards from this year. They've done this so many times recently where they throw like one of the shittier prelims on the main card. Like, at least I understand Bo Nickel's a spoiled little bitch and Dana White's a little pet project. So, of course, they're like, oh, let's put Bo on the main card. Bo said, oh, I'm a main card fighter. Yeah, you didn't look like it against Paul Craig. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get it. Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling is a number one contender fight in the featherweight division, in my opinion. I mean, let's go back real quick. Just real quick. Let's look at the rankings. Right now, Volkanovski is going to get a shot at Topuria. Okay, I understand he got brutally chinned. He was a long reigning featherweight champion. He's going to get the shot. Max Holloway just got destroyed by Topuria. Diego Lopez, I guess, okay, maybe he's next in line. I think that's completely premature, but you know, he does get a little bit of Dana White privilege. Yair has no chance to get a title fight. Just recently lost to Brian Ortega, which is even more hilarious. Then you have Movsar. Then you have Brian Ortega, who just got destroyed by Diego Lopez. Then you have Arnold Allen, who lost to Movsar. Then, literally right now, the legit title contenders would be Lopez, Movsar, and Sterling. Those are the contenders for Topuria. So unless you plan on shoving Topuria up to lightweight, I don't know why I did the Ruzaboyev coach move there. Unless you plan on sending him up, there's nobody else. I mean, who else here? You guys tell me. Comment down below. I guess Lerone Murphy, was he going to be a title contender soon? I mean, I guess he could. 2 more wins, maybe up the ranks. But it's Movsar and Sterling right now. Like, if Topuria wants to go on like a nice featherweight run, I mean, the run's already crazy. To chin Volkanovski and Max Holloway back-to-back is already insane. If he beats Volkanovski again, that's 3 crazy good wins. And then imagine undefeated Ilia Topuria versus undefeated Movsar Evloev. That's the fight to make, but instead you're going to put him on the prelims? For this bum? For this bum here? Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie? Who wants to see this on the main card? I certainly don't. It just drives me nuts. So I figured I'd make a video on it. I just can't believe what the UFC's falling off, guys. When they're making decisions like this, and I'm praying, they may change it around. They change around cards all the time. Please, UFC 310, it needs to get shifted around. Aljamain Sterling versus Movsar Evloev needs to be on the main card. I can't watch this. I can't. Kron Gracie on a main card in 2024. I might have to boycott the sport. I genuinely, and this would be a banger card. This would be a banger card. If they structure this in the right way, I don't want to watch Aljamain Sterling versus Movsar on the prelims, then watch 3 other prelims, and then watch Kron Gracie. It just ruins the whole flow of the card. It makes no sense to put the best high-level guys, bury them on the prelims for Bryce Mitchell and Kron Gracie. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.